In this video, we're going to continue talking about emotional appeals. So if you missed the first PowerPoint on emotional appeals, you'll want to go back to the one labeled Emotional Appeals Intro. So in this one, we're going to dive a little more in depth on specific types of those appeals that really play on a reader's feelings. They're not necessarily rational or logical, but they're meant to invoke a feeling in your reader or your audience. So one of those types of appeals is worst case scenario. So these are also sometimes called extreme cases. So as writers and as speakers, we'll sometimes use these to kind of illustrate the worst possible thing that could happen. It's a kind of scare tactic. So we'll lay out a worst case scenario to say this could be you or it could be someone close to you. And obviously this invokes a strong emotional response. It's a sense of fear. Oh no, what if this happened to me? So the example here, we see this a lot in the healthcare debate, which has been going on for a long time now. So often when we're talking about healthcare, people will use these worst case situations to say, okay, yeah, not everyone's experience with healthcare is great or is terrible, but there's these extreme cases where people just really don't get what they need and it has dire consequences. So here's an example. Mary Jo found out she had cancer last year, but her insurance plan, with seemingly no reason, would not cover her treatment, and now she must live in extreme pain without treatment because she can't afford medication. So, if we're talking about healthcare, there are lots of situations where people's medication is really expensive or they can't really access it. This is maybe an extreme case, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. There are people who've had situations like this, but they're kind of the outliers. But by drawing attention to those outliers, we say, hey, this could happen, which scares your reader, it's a very good way to start a paper. So worst case scenarios often make very, very good hooks, especially if they're very descriptive and very in-depth. Another type of emotional appeal is also religious appeal. So religious appeals are exactly what they sound like. They're appeals to religion. When we read the letter to the Birmingham jail, we're going to see a lot of this. So they're a little problematic in argumentation because you have to know the religion of your reader to use these effectively. If you're going to appeal to something said in the Bible or a religious concept, then you need to know that your audience believes that. Because if they don't, it's either going to upset them or offend them, or they're just not going to buy that argument. So this is generally when you use religion to uphold your point of view. We find this a lot in the abortion debate. So a lot of people base their entire view of abortion on what their church or their religion says. So if the church is against abortion, then for some people that's all they need. They're like, I'm against it because the church is against it. So that can be especially hard to argue with. It's very, very hard to argue with people's deeply held religious beliefs. So, and sometimes groups and politicians will use this in their favor. We know that a lot of politicians appeal to certain religions, and they'll use this type of appeal to get that base to vote for them. Another type of emotional appeal, and this is another really effective one that also makes a great hook, is the moral or guilt appeal. So these play on our conscience. So this is an appeal where you're essentially saying to your reader, hey, are you a good person? Because if you're a good person, you'll do this, or you'll think this, or you'll donate to this. So they appeal to our sense of morals or to our sense of guilt. If you can make someone feel bad because they have something or they have something that someone else doesn't have, that can be very effective. We see these a lot in campaigns for money. So, and volunteer organizations will often use these. If you think of humane shelters and the ads that they put out on TV and on the internet with the sad puppies and they're horrible. But that's why they're horrible. They play on your guilt and they play on your morals and they make you just feel terrible. And they do that a lot by the use of images too. So the image we have here is from a Feed the Children donation campaign. So this is obviously a very effective image. It's very disturbing, and it makes, I mean, your gut reaction is to just feel concern and worry and like you need to do something, which is exactly what they want you to feel. They want you to give money that's presumably going to go feed this starving child. Obviously, this is dangerous because a lot of times these types of organizations that use these images are not legitimate, or they only use a small percentage of the funds that people donate to actually go to the people that they say they're going to go to. So you want to be careful with these. When you see that ad with the really sad puppies or the starving child, you want to still take a second and research the organization that you're thinking about donating to, because a lot of times they're not quite what you think they are. But these are very, very strong appeals to use in a paper or especially in a presentation where you can use visuals.